Do you find yourself incapable of saying no to things with ADHD, only to realize you have far too many things on your plate and are feeling really overwhelmed, unproductive, and unable to protect your sense of well-being? Well, this video is for you. Simplification is a great solution that is really underestimated by society in general and far too often by those living with the chaos that is ADHD. As someone living with ADHD, both the upsides and the downsides, I've always been acutely aware of the fact that I'm constantly told to take on every single opportunity at medical school, to leave no stone unturned, never to take on less. The society that we live in is all about doing more in order to be more. However, living with and overcoming ADHD has required me to go against this very advice. In this video, I'll talk about why it's important to say no with ADHD and the top strategies that I use to say no. So firstly, let's talk about why it's important to say no, especially with ADHD. The first reason is less is definitely more with ADHD. It allows deep focus and unlocks the opportunity to benefit from compounding effects. Living with ADHD means that we are very spontaneous and very susceptible to distraction. In my experience, I've learned that most meaningful results are achieved through prolonged focus on a single or a handful of tasks over a very long time, not by doing multiple things at once. I've learnt this the hard way. If I were to go back in time, in fact, I'd definitely tell myself to have faith that things will work out for me in the end and I don't need to take on every single opportunity that hits me. Now that I'm starting as a medical doctor, I've broadly been working on decluttering my life and picking the things that are really important to me, things that I'm genuinely passionate about. In fact, rather than saying yes to things, my entire focus now is on saying no to things, to actively declutter and simplify my life. There are 3 visuals from Visualizing Value who I'd really recommend you to follow on Twitter, and these really summarize the importance of deep and selective focus, and I've had a big impact in shifting my thought process. The first is this visual, which really demonstrates why concentration beats diversification in almost every situation. This speaks volumes to me because time spent on one task allows compounding effects to take place. It's so important with ADHD. This visual showed me that discipline is required to see a project through. Focusing on a single or a small set of projects allows deep focus. Only through discipline can great results be achieved. This visual really hit me. By constantly doing so much with ADHD, I found that I'm always spending precious time focusing on tasks that aren't necessarily in line with my mission statement. Not only is there a lot of wasted time from procrastination and distraction, but not having the discipline to selectively focus on a few selected tasks means that you spread yourself out too thin and waste a lot of time doing things that aren't important. Okay, so the second reason to say no to opportunities is that saying yes means you'll have to invariably say no to other opportunities further down the line that may be more important and more in line with your passion, values, and mission. It's important to think not only about the present but the future, and this can be very hard when there's an opportunity that has landed in your lap and you're not sure exactly what the future might hold. Third reason to say no is because saying no is really appreciated and goes a long way. When you're genuine and sincere about your reasons for turning down an opportunity, it demonstrates maturity, discipline, and shows that you're really calculated about the things that you take on. It's looked at a lot more favourably than somebody who takes on far too many opportunities and isn't very good at following through and delivering on any of those opportunities. In one way or another, we've all taken on opportunities that we end up regretting, opportunities we probably should have turned down and could have done without. I do think it's very important to make these mistakes and experience this early to allow us to better define our own criteria for taking up opportunities with ADHD and to become selective and disciplined. It's tough to always get this right. There are 5 strategies and principles that I've tried and tested that have helped me considerably with managing my spontaneity and excitement with taking on new projects and opportunities with ADHD. Number 1, leave a minimum of 1 night's sleep before saying yes to any opportunity. It's very important not to be emotional or excited and to resist your gut reaction. Pushing the decision off until you're able to think with clarity and without emotion will allow you to get over a lot of the initial excitement and to make the best possible decision with a level head. When we're high in emotions, it's very hard to look at things with perspective. Whenever I distance myself from a decision and come back to it, I almost always make better decisions. This is so important to keep my ADHD under wraps and especially to overcome a lot of the spontaneity and time blindness that I have. Number 2, with ADHD, it's so important to spend a lot of time physically writing down the pros and cons of an opportunity. Writing down your thoughts on paper allows you to take a step back, assess your priorities, and have a deep think about every opportunity that crosses your path. This approach has helped me to be deliberate with everything I take on. It's a great way to account for my ADHD and to think deeply whether an opportunity or project falls into my area of competence, influence, and of course my interests. It's also a great way of coming back to your decision making later and to reassure yourself that you made the right decision. It also allows you to have a real think about why you might be struggling to say no. Is this because you fear losing out on opportunities or have a feeling of guilt with saying no? Is it because you want to always help others and don't want to appear rude or selfish? Is this because perhaps you fear rejection, or is it because you want to avoid conflict and want to maintain a good and healthy relationship? Working through our thought process can be really helpful in allowing us to better understand why we take on so many things with ADHD. Number 3, my third strategy, and this is really important for people with ADHD, is to limit social media use and to unfollow or mute people that stop you focusing on your own journey. We're all working on our own clock and on our own time. Somebody ahead of you and others behind you are all on their own journey. It's so important not to compare yourself to others or even look at what others are doing. This is something which until now, and probably even now actually, that I struggle with and have been working so much on. Comparison is the thief of joy, and it can easily cause you to become distracted from your mission. By limiting my use of social media and by actively and rigorously controlling my social media stimuli, I have been able to control the opportunities that I come across, and more importantly, my need to be doing more than I already am. By simplifying and by subtracting, I've been able to give myself space to figure out what truly matters to me. And I really recommend this for anyone with ADHD who's able to churn through a lot of social media content and is constantly finding themselves feeling like they are underachieving. I'll definitely make a YouTube video on this soon. My fourth strategy is always have an accountability partner or a mentor, somebody you trust who you can run an opportunity past to get their objective opinion on. Doing this has helped me significantly in getting a second opinion, and on many occasions has changed my thoughts about saying yes to an opportunity. This works especially well once you process your own thoughts and feelings. It can be very helpful getting a supporting or even conflicting objective opinion, and I'd really recommend you to do so. Number 5, the last strategy I recommend, which I touched on earlier, is to actually be completely honest about your reasons for saying no. People are generally a lot more understanding than we might think. It also will help you give a firm no rather than a maybe or a sitting on the fence answer and being ambiguous about it. I found that people genuinely appreciate it a lot more when you say no and give a well thought out reason rather than a self-deprecating reason that isn't entirely true. So yeah, taking on too much is a nightmare for anyone, and especially with ADHD. It hampers productivity, leads to resentment, and stops you from producing your best and most enjoyable work. Taking a step back and actively focusing on being deliberate with your ADHD and really trying to be disciplined and removing things from your plate can give you the freedom to achieve deep focus on a hand-picked set of projects that you can actually do over a long time to excel in and gain the benefit of compounded effects. These are some strategies that have helped me along the way, and if you have further strategies, I'd love to learn from you and to test them out. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more content on how I handle my ADHD alongside doing a PhD at the University of Oxford and starting as a medical doctor in the UK, please keep watching my content and subscribe. Also, comment below on what you want me to talk about next. Till next time.